Thank you. Okay, Shalom Aleichem, everybody, and welcome. I want to give a special yashar koach to Rabbi Shaltiel Lebovic. Now, I know Rabbi Shaltiel Lebovic, even though I look like I'm much older than him. He looks like a spring chicken. We are classmates, and we've gone on to different. I'm here, he's there, but we try, as we're learning halachas, we try to take advantage of everybody who can help us understand our halachas better. Rabbi Shaltiel Lebovic has an organization called GoKosher.org. It's a beautiful organization that anybody who need. By the way, Shaltiel, you have a lot of competition. I live in Muncie. Just a couple of days ago, there are lawn signs all over the Muncie. Kashering. Anyway, it looks like the company like yours, competition. If anybody needs to be kashered, call us and we'll kasher you. So I'll tell you, I personally, when I moved into my new house, I could be the biggest genius in halacha and everything, but I don't know. I definitely don't know practical things. So when I wanted to know about the different types of counters and different types of microwaves and different types of things, I called my good old buddy, Rabbi Shaltiel. I videoed my kitchen. I said, this is what my oven looks like. And, we have a couple engineers here, so you have to be careful, Shaltiel, what you say, because the engineer might appreciate what you told me. The oven is one way, but there's a glass and there's a rubber and there's this. There's so many different components to it. So therefore, we're in the midst of finishing off the halachas of agalas kelim, kashering, and we just finished the halachas of tevilas kelim. And now it's the season that we're preparing for Pesach. So I called my buddy, Rabbi Shaltiel Lebovic. Rabbi Shaltiel, if you're sitting in a way that you look like you're in the Holland Tunnel, maybe... you
want more light? Should I get more light?
Yeah, please.
Is this better?
No, doesn't make a difference. Maybe close the darken. No, that I don't know if that.
Yeah, you need the light from the front.
You need the light from the front. You hear the engineer said you need the light from the front.
So I can do like this.
Oh, that's better. Now it's even better. Now you turn it.
Hand. That's okay.
Okay, so Rabbi Shaltiel Lebovic accepted our offer, and he wanted to change the time, and I begged him not to. And because I said my guys are very organized, and we're showing our true colors.
Okay, let's start.
All right.
Okay.
You don't want to have. What do you mean? You don't want to have a hesped?
No.
Okay.
No eulogies on Sundays, on Sunday mornings.
Okay.
Oh. All right. So
Shaltiel, let me just tell you, you have Talmidim here, as I told you, in New York, New Jersey, Colorado, California, Hong Kong, Israel, they're all over.
I tell you, I mean, I do get questions from all over the world at times, and yeah, that's what I do. So long story short, I run an organization called GoKosher.org, which is mainly concentrated in the tri-state, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area, and Florida. And I field questions and walk people through situations all around the country and all around the world, for that matter. So I'll give you a little overview. This is not a in-depth type of, lecture, which is going to go through all the shittas and different opinions and this and that. This is what I do is practical. I help people go kosher, and that's what I'm here to do today. So there's a general rule. I'm sure you learned this. There's a general rule in kashering. In the same, this is the main principle upon which the whole principle of kashering revolves. It's not, and as you probably know by now, kashering is not a mystical procedure. It's more of a technical procedure that we're trying to make something new and expunge any possible or doubtful absorption, which is possibly not kosher or chametz. So Kabbalah kachpote generally means that in the same way that it absorbed, or by the same measure of heat that it absorbed, this is how we're going to best it, and this is how we're going to rectify it by applying, especially by waiting 24 hours, not using it, so we can assume by that time any taste embedded in the utensils or maybe in the appliances, by then will have gone flat, and then we can apply the rabbinical principle of kashering in order to clinch it and remove any of that taste. So it's like new. So we can continue using it. So if something was used, we'll try maybe from the minor to the major. If something was used only not on top of the fire, so it's not a kli rishon, it's not first in touch with the fire. Usually pouring something which is yad ledis over it, let's say up to 200 degrees Fahrenheit would be enough to kasher it. You can just pour boiling water on such items in order to kasher it, and then preferably rinse it with cold water or put it in cold water. Something which was used on the stove top, let's say, we'll start with utensils. Let's say spoons, something to stir something on the fire. That should be preferably either you pour boiling water from a clay rishon on top of it, or preferably kasher it in a utensil that's boiling on the fire top. An easy way, an easy way to kasher a lot of items that are loose, let's say, what do you call it, silverware and things of that nature, is just to put a large rectangular disposable aluminum pan on 2 flames, bring the water to a boil. You can do it a little faster by covering it with another one, and then you can dip your items. The items should ideally not touch each other. You move them around if they're loose items. So long as you have a slow, a low or medium boil while you're doing this, you have met your obligation. And you leave it in the water as long as you would think it takes for the water to affect it. So if it's a thicker item, you leave it a little longer. If it's a thinner item, or a lighter item, you leave it a little less time, which is not much, a few seconds. And if it is okay, or if it's necessary, that it's not submerged entirely at once, you can do half and half, or you can do this angle and that angle of a utensil in order to kasher it. Yes, you can also kasher a pot by, let's say, letting the water come to a boil at the top of it, and then dropping something heavy inside for it to spill over. So it does. So from the bottom, you have it being kashered from the fire, from the stovetop. Then you have the boiling water on the inside, and then the water runs on the outside, so getting every angle of the pot. However, you would have to, with the handle.
Shaltiel, could you slow down? Just because you're giving a lot of information, I want to make sure.
Okay.
Everybody is incorporating it. And if anybody wants at any time to stop, I know by the end, soon he's going to let everybody ask. But if you have anything you want to ask, pipe in right away, please.
Actually, I mean, if you want, we could try right now. We could try something else. People can shoot questions at me that particularly pertain to your situations, instead of what I'm saying is quite theoretical, but it's also pertains. But you want to do that, Rabbi? What do you think?
I want you to continue giving the basic overview, which they know, and then each one is going to ask about their own equipment or whatever.
Okay. So that is as far as that's Hagala. That's the main measure of Hagala, boiling. So I just told you it is convenient to use oftentimes a disposable aluminum pan because it's clean, it's new, it's cheap, and also it has a low wall. And because it is, you can put bigger items in at once, this way and that way. Now, sometimes you'll have big pots. And now in general, many people are not fond of kashering kelim or utensils for Pesach. And it's even written in the halachic sources, better not if you can afford it to get new ones. However, sometimes we need to, or we do. And what you would have to watch out for in pots would be the lip. If it's not a straight lip, you have to maybe get a small torch and burn under the lip to make sure that any grease or any chametz or any substantive matter is basically done away with. And one way you could tell is if there's flare up, you wait till the flare up burns out. That means there's no more grease and no more matter. You may cosmetically make the pot a little black, but that's what you have to do sometimes. Also, parenthetically, a large pot is easier sometimes to kasher on the fire top on 1 or 2 burners, and then you heat it up and use the larger, use even a small torch to work on it from the inside, the outside, the handles, and because the handles actually are a place where oftentimes shmutz can accumulate. So that has to be, you have to do some piecework sometimes with a torch. Okay, so that's basically what I just discussed is agala, the boiling method of kashering, and also the libun kal, meaning a light measure with fire or with hot water on the fire top. Sometimes the libun kal is equal to hagala, and okay, so that's as far as that goes. Okay, and so then we move on to so sometimes you'll need to, okay, now as far as libun gomer goes, this is libun gomer is generally for an oven. Let's say on the one hand, most people today have a self-cleaning oven, and that's what they can and should rely on in most cases. According to most opinions, it's sufficient for kashering for Pesach. There are some opinions that would prefer real fire, both for especially Pesach, and otherwise there are people that don't really, if you don't have self-clean, are not fond of kashering for Pesach. But there are opinions that are lenient that would allow it to be cleaned, not used for 24 hours, cleaned with chemicals well, and then put on a highest temperature for about 2 hours. So depending on your situation and depending, it's always like I say, it depends who's asking the question. We try to have something for everyone within a halachic framework, of course. So that's as far as, okay, that's as far as the oven goes. If you have a broiler underneath, oftentimes it's too hard to kasher a broiler, but it should be cleaned well and, taped and sold in the chametz. The glass doors, some people have a chumrah, some people are strict and they would like to tape aluminum foil to the door so that things coming in and out of the oven don't touch the glass, because it's Pyrex, and according to some opinions or some angles, it may have a similarity to earthenware, which is not so kasherable. And then we have okay, so now also the parts from the oven, the stove top, you can put in if it's a regular gas, you could put it in the self-clean and leave that on. That will kasher that. If you feel that it's going to get ruined because of it's a nice chrome finish and you didn't buy new ones for Pesach, you could put them in the oven on high temperature, let's say 550, which shouldn't ruin it and shouldn't even singe the rubber nubs on the bottom. That's as far as that goes. Now, sometimes, okay, if you have an electric stove top, you let it glow for a few minutes. The burner's on top. The middle area, if it's made out of stainless steel, you could pour boiling water on it. If not, if it's a ceramic, you really have to clean it well. If you have a small torch, some opinions say that the fire goes through the ceramic coating, but if not, you cover it after you've kashered it with boiling water or chemical, and you should cover it and work around it. If you have a glass top, from what I understand, the best thing, you have to let each burner glow for a while. The middle area you should pour boiling water over, and it's best because of the method of kashering just with the hot heat and the glass top, which is somewhat Pyrex-like, but also the fact that the middle area in between the burners is made out of this Pyrex glass material, and almost invariably using bigger pots, it's going to going to go into that area. So some people came up with a method of putting metal washers on the burner so that your pot is actually elevated, or maybe a little pyramid or a little two washers. So you get the heat, and it's maybe not as good, of course, but still it's elevated from the surface. So we could say that it's many things are self-kashering. So in that case, the burner itself is self-kashering, but the area in between, not necessarily. Some people say you can kasher it by putting down aluminum on top of the whole thing. I am wary of that. I think it's a little dangerous and it might break it. If you can get a better glass top, that's good. Now, some people also will kasher. Most people today do not kasher pots, regular pots. They don't. Some people kasher like fine silver and kiddush cups that you can do easily in the aluminum disposable pan, like I said, under cold water afterwards, after the boiling water. You can roll the kiddush cups around a little bit and you can put a few pieces of silver at a time. You can rinse it under cold water and onto a towel on your counter, or you can put it in cold water in another container.
Rabbi Shaltiel, why is that a better method than just pouring hot water, putting the cups in the sink, for example, the kosher sink, and pouring hot water over it?
I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it's better. I'm not saying
Yours seems to be, you have to be very acrobatic, and a silver foil, aluminum foil pan on the on waters is you have to be.
No, you're right. I'm sorry. I know you're right. It's not a clay rishon, and you can do it by pouring boiling water over it. Correct.
So when do you use that? But when do you use that aluminum foil? When did you feel most useful? It's the first time I heard that.
For doing things that are clay rishon, that were used on the stove on a boiling
and
fire.
You're using the aluminum pan instead of using a pot, a kashering pot.
Yeah, you can use a kashering pot too, of course. I just find it practical. That's all.
Because it's lower.
If your items are not too big, I gave you an eitzah. If your items are very large, then you can use a small torch while it's on the fire. I can do it at the same time. Also, sometimes to cool something down, if you're doing many items, you could technically stuff up your sink with cold water, so that you just throw the items in the cold water in the sink and move on to new items to make more room on the counter. Any questions?
How about cups and glasses? What do you do with that?
Sometimes I do boiling water, or you can also advise people to do the 3-day with the tepid water, changing it every 24 hours in the bathtub. Many people, of course, today, I don't necessarily encourage people to use the same glassware for Pesach, but some people do. And so if I'm doing it for them, maybe I'll do it with boiling water in and out. If not, I can, one of the two.
Okay, so I'm going to start becoming a little more technical. How about a microwave?
Microwave, it's like this. If a microwave was, first of all, it's better if a microwave was never really used with chametz. Then you could preferably, first of all, change the glass revolving tray. Try to get a new one. If you can't, you can kasher it in the boiling water, in the what do you call it? Or pour boiling water over it, and preferably cover it with saran wrap. Okay. And if it's plastic, and some opinions are strict, if it's plastic and it got quite hot from something that was chametzik, so some opinions say you shouldn't kasher it at all. But l'poil, I do kasher it.
1 second. How do you kasher? Because
I kasher with hot water on the inside.
Explain how you're not.
Okay, so I take a mug, something that can withstand for a long time, and boil the water at least as long as it may have been used with hot thing, making something hot. So anywhere between 20 minutes and an hour.
In a microwave?
Yeah.
Who microwaves anything 20 minutes?
10 minutes.
What food do you microwave 10 minutes?
Sometimes you defrost things. Let it be. 10 minutes. You
said 10 minutes, 10 hour. Who puts? The whole thing is going to go on fire.
Well, the only reason, to be honest with you, I said an hour because I saw by Blumenkrantz. I don't know. I guess he changed it. He got stricter. So that's it.
All right. Knives. What do you do for knives?
The kasher for Pesach?
Yeah.
Generally not, but I would say if someone must, you should use. The problem, I think, would be more where the handle and the blade meet. That's more the problem. But if it's a one piece, you could put it under the fire a little bit. You could put it on if you could do a small torch, or you could do a small torch, or you could rub it with something like steel wool and put it in boiling water also, if it wasn't used in 24 hours.
Rabbi Shaltiel, don't give
Mhm.
people too many choices. Now, this is, you give them too many choices, they're gonna walk around with an option A, option B. Just tell
Okay.
them thing. No, because the last thing we were discussing was that
Okay.
the Shulchan Aruch talks about Neitza Bekarka, which you, when Neitza Bekarka today would also be equivalent to steel wool or.
Right.
Okay. One last thing before we open up to everybody. We know that cheres, kli cheres, earthenware, you cannot kasher. What's included in kli cheres? Earthenware, as an old Torah boy, has no interpretation.
I think it's interesting. I think everything is included in that except for bone china. Some reason bone china is an exception and can be kasher to Nagola. Everything else cannot be.
Hold on, when you say everything, we're not talking about metal.
No, I'm
what do you-
talking
everything
about
there? What do you mean?
all kinds of ceramic products, anything made out of any type of ceramic, clay, anything besides bone china. This is my understanding.
Okay, so what happens? Do people have countertops made out of ceramic?
No,
There's no count.
no, I don't think so. Only
Which
stuff like
item? Which
marble,
item? Which
marble.
item? And marble's no problem. The
Right.
kasher.
Correct.
So which item did you find shocking? That was a question.
Doesn't
of
marble
Paris.
have holes in it also?
What?
Doesn't-
Paris.
No, well, no. My understanding is this: it has to be a solid, like a solid stone. If it's ground up and there's some composite in it, it can't be kasher. So then you
It
you
can't
kind of
or can you? Claire,
cannot. It has to be an original slab of rock, one piece. Now, people have thrown arguments at me that some of these items that are made from synthetic or reconstituted stone are so they don't absorb anything. But the bottom line is, it can only be a solid rock.
They all absorb something, even with a coating.
The question is if they not only absorb, if they expunge the same way they absorb.
see, Paris, the chumrah.
So, I mean, listen, I'll tell you the truth. I tell people to go to the COR website. I don't get that involved in the minutiae of this. I'll be honest with you. It's not like I tell people.
So which item did you find shocking to you that you thought it was questionable that it's cheres you can't cut? What in your career? I mean, what did you find?
I mean, look, in the past, we used to think, at least for all year round, that non-stick you can't kasher. I came to learn that some of the bigger agencies allow it, at least not for Pesach. So that was a little bit of
which item? Sorry, I skipped. Which item?
non-stick, like Teflon.
And now?
Oh, and then there's another thing. For instance, something that's ceramic coated, like I think it's called Le Creusot or something like that. It's a French company. So they have cast iron, which is coated with ceramic coating. So some of it's not necessarily for Pesach. I wouldn't recommend it, but I'm saying sometimes it's an expensive item. So I do kasher with a torch because according to some achreinim, the fire goes through a coating of ceramic. Okay, so that's if that sounds interesting to you. So sometimes I rely on that.
No, hold on. So because a lot of your experience is with people who are turning Orthodox, so you don't want to tell them how Orthodoxy is just throw everything in the garbage. You want to see how we work with you, yeah.
Right.
So
Yes.
And they have these expensive chinas that are from their hand down from their Elta bubbies. What do you tell them to do with that?
So there is a heter if it's a great financial loss or maybe also some nostalgic value to not use it for a year and then we kasher it by Hagolah. Or there's even a different one which is easier for those who really are attached, or to do it 3 times, even not to wait a year, 3 times, preferably in 3 separate like aluminum pans boiling on the stove.
Okay, that was a blast of information. Now we'll open up to the public, and nobody over here in this group is shy. So please Ask what you have, what's relevant to you. If you have anything, and let's shoot from all directions.
Coated sinks and countertops like you find in a lot of older apartments, the metal ones.
1 minute. You're asking now about stainless steel sinks?
Not the stainless steel sinks, but coated ones you find, especially a lot of older apartments. They have this, when it's white or whatever.
First of all, you're saying coated. A lot of times it's not so coated, but it's more of a, first of all, even if it's not coated, but a lot of the times it's an enamel sink, enamel. Generally, we don't kasher them. There seems to be some lenient opinions for all year round to do 3 times with boiling water, but generally we do not rely on that. We don't kasher it, certainly not for Pesach, and that's the end of it.
If you don't have a choice, let's say you live in an apartment, you don't have much of a choice.
If you live in an apartment, you go and you get and I know you, so you live in Brooklyn. You can buy an insertable sink, and so that hopefully the water is not getting stuck in between and it's going down the hatch, and you have a barrier. You're not washing your things in the enamel sink. We don't do that because it's not known if it totally expunges the taste that it absorbs, and it's similar to not kashering anything made out of enamel or ceramics. Okay,
So
next
while
question.
you're on this topic, how does one kasher his sink from chametz to Pesach? What is a regular kitchen sink made out of, or does it make a difference what it's made out of?
It depends. Like the gentleman just asked me about enamel sink that we do not kasher. And a stainless steel sink you can kasher.
By doing what?
Basically, the best way is not to use it, especially with hot, for 24 hours, and then to generously pour boiling water, preferably over a hot rock. But if you can, just boiling water. Pour a little ammonia or bleach down the drain, and al pi din, you're good to go. We don't have to assume that.
Rabbi lebovic, you said a couple of things. You said not to use it 24 hours because then it's ein ben yomoy. Then you said a hot rock. Most people over here don't have hot rocks in their backyard. So if somebody would, they do even sell it. Would they get these rocks and they put it on fire? How do you know if the rock is hot enough to be used?
You leave it on the stovetop for 10 minutes. There's no question. You'll see that the metal. Now they sell them in many Judaic shops. The metal gets red very, very, very fast in 3 minutes, and then the rock.
The metal, which metal? The metal of where?
I'm talking about a device that they sell in the Judaic shops.
Right.
It's like a half a brick in a cage.
Correct.
That gets in 7 minutes and you're ready to go. Okay. So and that's very versatile. You can move it in different angles of the sink and pour boiling water over it.
No, because people, and many times it says you should use that baklau over countertops and tables maybe also. So the question is, others have said that a hot iron is almost as good as a. Have you heard that?
I just find the rock more practical and it's less scary but you know what? Some people are scared of using both of these items, and I think you can either just pour boiling water if you must, and preferably cover after that. And if you can't, if you want to get the best of both worlds in a way without going too far, you could try to be makbid to do that just with boiling water after you chemical washed it and you didn't use it for 24 hours. And then the hot things, try to put on towels. The very hot things, put down on towels and on trivets. So I'm trying to give something for everyone. Everyone has a different situation.
Okay. Now you also 1 second. I just want to say you also mentioned that you put bleach or something down. That's to make it pugum. That should be even before the kashering, not after.
You're right. Yes, you're right. That should be before the kashering to kill any chametz. It shouldn't come back up. If there's anything in the drain pipe or in the drain, you do your best to clean that and kasher that.
Okay. Next, anybody else?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, could you blowtorch the sink if you don't have this stone?
It's even better in a way. However, beware that you might make, if you overdo it, you may blacken the sink. You might blacken it permanently. So be careful. So I would say like this: if you do it, don't do like 4 to 6 square inches at a time. Keep touching it, and when it's like really hot to your finger, that's basically enough. And then you can spritz hot water or pour boiling water over that area. That's perfect.
Right. Okay.
Gershon, by the way, is in Hong Kong. You have to
Oh,
understand, if you're blow torching, let's say, that means to say that you believe you had that level of heat in it. You believe that you're, what happened to him?
I don't believe we don't use. I don't use hot water, but I just want to be extra machmir to make sure
If
whatever.
you don't use hot water, you don't even have chametz being Beleya or Isser being Beleya there. And by the way, Rabbi Lebovic, on a regular sink, we had this discussion, a regular kitchen sink, and when you're washing dishes or whenever a person uses hot water, how hot is the water in the sink? For you to say that.
Meaning when you're using hot water, how hot is it?
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess not more than 135 degrees.
But it is Yahtzee lettuce, boy. I mean, it did
Yeah,
cause a
sure.
bleed.
If you put it on hot, it's Yahtzee lettuce, yes.
Because it's an oxymoron. Why would you put on the hot water in such a way that you can't even put your hand in there? I mean, if you can't wash the dishes.
No, so it's not. It doesn't. In most cases, it doesn't even approximate that. However, sometimes I know I wash dishes. I soak something in very hot water and let it sit. So you can't say that.
How about? I was just thinking. How about a lot of people have that hot water for coffee, instant hot water.
It's just hot water.
Huh?
It's just hot water. You're asking if you can use it on Pesach?
I'm saying, is the temperature? Could you use that if you have a built-in?
So, however, it runs out pretty quickly. So you're better off boiling water. If you have a kumkum, if you have a receptacle.
Right. All right. Next.
My concern about the sink was because my maid sometimes maybe she may get a pan straight out of the countertop of the fire.
Okay.
She finished cooking and she just pull it on the sink and puts the water.
That's a very valid concern. Yeah. So
that's why.
However, not using it for cleaning it well with some with some chemical, and not using it for 24 hours, and then pouring boiling water would even be okay for such a situation, even though the hot pot coming out of the oven may have been a little hotter than 100 boiling temperature. But al pi din, it would be enough to still do it with as a surface to do it with boiling water.
So why can't you kasher enamel sink again?
Because we don't kasher enamel, because enamel absorbed and not necessarily will expunge the way it absorbed, just because of the material that it is, or exeris akasa of having to do with not kashering cheres.
Rabbi.
Moshe, speak up.
Okay.
Show him your
one
engineer.
question.
Show him your engineer. By the way, he's a shaltiel.
Don't try
Rabbi Lebovic is a fellow New Jersey. He's from Morristown. You might know his father.
Oh, yeah?
But listen, I'm a practical guy. Don't try to stump me.
No, nothing bad. This is a practical
Shaltiel,
question.
your camera went
Your
off.
situations.
Yeah, well,
Shaltiel, your
very
camera
practical
went off.
question. Rabbi Willem touched upon. You have the hot pot, you pump it on
1
top.
second,
with the water.
Moshe, 1 second. Shaltiel, oh, now your camera's back on. Okay.
Okay. The hot pots that we keep, then you push the top and it pushes the water up.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any, and it goes through a plastic nozzle at top.
Right.
Are they usable for Pesach? And
Technically, I would say, look, all year round, you use it only with water. If you run boiling water through it, then maybe pour some boiling water on top of this, put it on its side, pour some water on its spout. You can do it.
Moshe, I understand.
But there's a famous
Moshe,
story. I don't know why I'm saying this. This is a famous story that the Rebbe Rashab burned himself when he was kashering a samovar. So you would think, why did he? Anyways, it has to do with the chumras that people do on Pesach. Actually, everyone has different chumras. So in any case,
Moshe, what do you ever put in a cheese Danish in the hot water kettle? What made the hot kettle? I'm saying obviously people,
no cheese Danish.
or
No.
prune Danish. I want to say obviously what made the inside of the kettle.
Nothing did. Nothing did.
That's what he's
okay,
saying.
but still,
No, but something could come up, like something could come
Yeah,
up
from the
during the
coffee
water
cup.
and hit it. That's it.
So I would say by running boiling water through it, you are good to go.
And
Maybe
you
you
brought
wanna
up a
put a
good
little-
point, Rabbi Lebovic. You brought up a good point. the hot water kettles are usually in the coffee area with this cookie. You said about the outside, or maybe he said pour hot water on the outside. That made sense. And inside, I don't see a cookie going inside.
All right, yeah, okay.
You said that what made sense.
The same din would apply by a water cooler, water dispenser.
What, that's all cold, so I don't see a, I don't see a major issue there.
There's a
I'll
hot
be di-
also.
I'll be din, I do not see a major issue there. If someone wants to be mahmid and this and that, but
No,
it's
but
cold,
he
it's just
said
water.
he spoke about the dual one. The dual, you know,
Right,
they have
there-
dual-
There's
Yeah,
one
yeah.
with the hot, but again, it's only water there. I mean, there's nothing else
Same
there.
issue, same issue. Now, some people maybe would be a little machmer in themselves not to use the hot one on Pesach. How do you like that? You could still have it there. You let the water through. Then some people might not want to use it. That's all.
All right, anybody else? Come on, take advantage.
Hot, a glass or a kettle bottle is used for cold, like you use for wine, for example.
Question again?
So a glass or a crystal bottle, like we use, let's say, we use it for wine.
Yeah. My understanding is this, that even though these things have been used all year round just for wine, let's say, you would still kasher it, even though it's glass and even though it doesn't absorb entirely. We still would. First of all, you wash it with hot water, although you don't use it. The ishtamshus is the main thing, not how you wash it. But I think that the custom definitely is to kasher these things, whether a quick toss in boiling water. Be careful; it is crystal. You don't want to break it, and that alone is a problem. To kasher things in a way that you think it would break, but certainly the 3-day method is good. But if you put it in boiling water, my experience is most crystal will not crack. Do not leave it there long. Just one roll in and roll out. Okay, next question.
Why don't we use,
Do not put it under cold water after.
okay, you said something about the ovens that don't have self-clean these days, that we don't really.
Is that your situation or you're just asking? I just want to know.
What?
Is that your situation or you just want to know?
I had this situation last year, so I'm curious to hear.
So what do you want to know? What to do?
Yeah, I want to know why, like, some people hold that you can't.
Because it's thought, the question is what constitutes a libun gomer? So those opinions who are makel or more lenient and say that after you've cleaned it, of course, chemical, pagam, so putting it on for 2 hours, and especially since most of the time you wouldn't have run. In other words, as long as you match the heat or best it by a little bit, that's enough to constitute a libun gomer. Those are the ones who are lenient. And the machmirim say, no, we need a high heat, like at least like a clay oven or 900 degrees, like a self-clean, or we need the fire itself.
Right,
So
but
that's
today,
your answer. So that's your answer, I hope.
but today a lot of self-cleans use steam clean, which doesn't even get
No,
that
that's
hot.
not good. That's good to
250.
clean, but it's good to clean, but it's not good to kasher. You need this. Some of them have both modes, but if you don't have, well, then you have to figure out what you want to do. Either put it on high for 2 hours, or get a new one, or don't use it, depending where you're coming from and where you're holding.
Right.
This is something you have to discuss more with. I mean, you're welcome to reach out to me, but go ahead. If anybody needs to reach out to me now or any other time, feel free, rabbi@gokosher.org. Rabbi@gokosher.org. Okay, next question.
Go.
If you have a pan with hagala, do you have to take the handles off? And is there a difference between Ashkenazim and Edut Mizrach?
I don't think there's a difference between Ashkenazim and Sfardim, and for that matter, a lot of people don't kasher because of the handles, but you definitely have to take the handles off because you have to remove anything under the handles. So you have to kasher the handles separately, and the what do you call it? Now, if the handle doesn't come off, if it's one piece, usually they do, but you can use a handle as a place, just like a knife is where schmutz can get. So maybe you should use, if it's so important to you, you should maybe use a small torch to clean and burn out the area after you remove the handle, or if the handle doesn't come off. Even if you have to singe that area a little bit, you have to remove anything that's there. So it's best to take it off.
Are you talking about a handle on the outside of the pot? Every time you kasher a pot, you're removing the handles?
I'm not saying I always do, but if I suspect something's there, I have to make sure that it's removed. You cannot kasher something before it's spanking clean.
Yeah, it's going against what you said. How is it? At what temperature is it going on the outside under the handle? It's not the same. It's much lower than the temperature.
I don't think that's so relevant. What's relevant is there something there or not? If it's there, we have to remove it either
How do
by
you know if
fire
it's there?
or by scrubbing. Then kasher. So actually, technically, in a way, if you cleaned it very well and you found stuff there and there was heat involved, maybe it's best. It would be best to wait 24 hours before you actually kasher. Because there was Isser Be'ain. There was Isser Be'ain.
No, but you're speaking about outside under the handle. I never saw people removing the handles before.
Well, in all honesty, if you look Rabbi Dubov's book, for instance, way back. No, you should remove. It's best to remove handles. There's no question about it. Listen, if it looks like there's nothing there, okay. Maybe you don't have to remove the handle, but and especially for Pesach, though, I would say you have to remove the handle. There's no question about it.
Okay, Avram in California. You wanted to say?
Yep. I have two questions. One, we talk a lot about like Hagala washing, but what do you do to dry? Because if I'm drying utensils, I could be transferring something. So can you?
The answer is like this. Very basic. There is no issue. In other words, transmission and absorption only occurs when there's moisture and heat. If it's not hot to begin with, nothing really transpired. So you wipe it off. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, we've spoken a little bit about the potentiality of residue.
Also, technically, you can use a towel to dry clean milk and dairy, milk and meat dishes and utensils, and just throw it in the wash. There's nothing transpired. You're wiping down a clean item. There's nothing there. It's just water residue and nothing else.
Got it. My second question is, if something cannot be kashered for Pesach, does that mean get something new, don't use it? Or because I've heard like you could kasher it, but you really can't kasher it. So can you just explain, if you can't kasher something,
first of all,
then what do you do?
If you can't kasher something, you sell it in the chametz with everything else. If it's technically possible to kasher, then you maybe make a little bit of what they call a cheshbon hanefesh. Do I need this item? Do I want to rely on a lenient opinion in order to kasher this for Pesach when it's chametz b'mashu? So it's not a matter of me throwing the book at you or a guilt trip. But does that answer your question?
Yeah, it sounds like it's best just not to use it.
And if you could get, yeah, exactly. People used to call me because in the old country, different people of different origin, let's say Bukharian Jews, they thought that it's a good thing. You come and you kasher. No, not really, because there's so many mishaps and there's so many schmutz and this and that. It's better to have a Passover collection of everything.
So I'll tell you two responses to that, two rebuttals. Rebuttal number one is what Rabbi Shaltiel lebovic said, that if the keli is chametz, that you couldn't kasher, you should sell it in the chametz. You know that's a big chiddush, because you're not allowed to have visible chametz. A keli that's not, the chametz is not visible, somewhere stuck inside. The Alter Rebbe says you sell that. Not everybody held that you have to sell that. Number one.
Thank you.
Not chametz. Number two.
Let me ask you, for that matter, are they the same opinion that say you have to get all the chametz out of the house? You can't sell cereal, bread. You can't sell
chametz. They hold chametz be'ain. A lot of Litvisha, they finish off all the chametz. Okay. Anyway, but the second point he said. The second point. What were we just talking about? I'm losing my mind. What was the second point? You said you sell it, and then you said.
No, I said you could, if it's possible.
He said it's possible. Buy your own thing. Buy a new thing. If you guys saw the video on the newsletter this week, There is a debate. What's better? There's a debate to have a Pesach kitchen, cost $10,000-$20,000 and have everything locked down, or actually kasher your kitchen. Now, it's much easier, it's much safer if you have a Pesach kitchen. But from the other hand,
I wasn't, by the way, I want to say, I was not advocating a Pesach kitchen.
No, I'm not criticizing. Right, shaltiel. This is my job is to make them think. There isn't a way of thinking that by matzah there is halacha. You cannot make matzah out of any type of wheat and flour. It has to be specifically wheat that could become chametz, and we stop it from becoming chametz. Only something that could be a problem, and we clean it up and we make it non-problem, is what we could fulfill the mitzvah of matzah. So, for example, I read in the lebovic Hasidim, there was a tradition specifically to take something that was chametz and make it kosher, make it kosher Pesach, specifically for that reason. Just FYI.
But I just want to say one thing. It seems that there's a distinction, not to argue with you, Rabbi, but it seems that there's a distinction between, in other words, the matzah has to be, in order for something to be,
has to be able to become chametz.
To have the ability to what do you call it?
Chimutz.
What do they call it in English when beer or wine, when it that process. But it seems to be something else to take a chametz stick pot and kasher it. I would think.
Okay.
Not exactly the same thing, but in any case.
All right. Anybody else? Please.
Can I ask just a kashrus question, please? Just so you mentioned it before. You have a pair of non-stick frying pan and you fry up butter in it. So it's direct heat. How would you do that? Because you can't do libum because you'll ruin the non-stick. And hagalah probably is not enough.
You're basically right, because in other words, a frying pan, according to the lenient opinion, so if you have a slab of meat directly in the fire in the frying pan, then you need a libum gomer. But if you had, if it wasn't totally in its own juices, but it was in some water or sauteed in some oil, then perhaps you could be makel and do a gola on it. But you're quite right that you couldn't really, you're asking technically, or this is a real situation?
It was a real situation. I thought you couldn't use it, but someone paskined that you can just do it by hagolah.
One option would maybe be to put it in the oven for an hour. Another option would be perhaps to put it on the fire.
What oven? Milchik's inflation.
Yeah, which oven? You can't meaty, milky parov. You can't.
Well, the thing is like this. I mean, if you didn't use it and you washed it well and it wasn't used for 24 hours, I think you could put it in a regular oven just by itself with nothing in it. I mean, I don't think that drapes up the oven, as far as I know. That's one thing. But maybe putting it on the fire on both sides, putting it right side up and upside down for a little while, the fire would go through the finish, but you might ruin it. I mean, listen, you learned, I'm sure you probably learned that if there's a chash that you're going to ruin something by kashering it, you can't kasher it because you're not going to, you're suspect that you're not going to do a good job. You're not going to do the full job. So what you're bringing up is a good illustration, perhaps, of something that cannot be kashered.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
How about desks and tables, especially ones that are not covered? Do they require hot water?
Yeah, hot water and cover. Hot water and cover. Listen, technically, if you're only going to use it for cold things, if you cleaned and covered, and even if you didn't cover, you're okay. If you removed all chametz and you're using it cold, okay, you should kasher it, but that's about it. But you shouldn't kasher it if it's going to ruin your table. Ruin the wood finish. Just cover it. A little spray and then cover it. Okay.
Well, anybody else? Rabbi lebovic, we got a contingency now from South Africa on here now. You see Kingsley and you see Elchanan. Put on your Anybody have any more questions? Yeshaya, suddenly you're quiet. Hit him with the best shot.
Listen, if you have questions, get them together and we'll make another, we'll have another powwow one of these days.
Okay, 1 second. Could I, before we sign out, Elchanan, you came in late. Before we
Yeah,
sign
in fact, it's a question of time. I actually misled everybody.
you misled
You know,
Of course,
the change of
we
time.
are waiting for 6 o'clock.
Oh, very so you'll hear the recording, okay?
I hope this was a
Okay,
pleasant
please.
experience, everybody. And you
One
learned
second. Before you disappear, I know he's rushing. Could everybody do me a favor? Oh boy, let me try. Could everybody for a moment, whoever, at least those who don't mind, go on. Give me a sec. My thing went kaput here. Could everybody? 1 second. Could everybody do me a favor?
Oh, I just thought of something interesting.
Yeah.
Gentleman in front of me asked me about the pot.
Yeah.
I think there's something you could do. What you could do is you could cook up some briquettes outside, okay? You listening? You asked me before about the Teflon pot, right?
Yes.
And then you take those briquettes, put the fire, get the pan pretty hot, and leave the fire on low, and put the briquettes in the pot. You know, because the briquettes are another way of kashering. The coals, live coal. If you put down live coals for a while, it's another way of kashering. So
Okay.
it might, I don't know. It might ruin the Teflon. There's different grades of Teflon. Some of them are very, impure, very strong. In any case, everybody have a chag kosher.
1 second. Last minute. Anybody have any more questions before you run away?
Just one question, which I struck you with.
Hello to everyone. I want to say hello to everyone. I joined late. I think I got the time wrong, but this is a very good discussion. I wish there's another session where we can join in time and then be able to discuss this in more detail. Because I was having a similar discussion today on actually how to clean out hametz from the house. And I wanted to ask a question on actually, I was told that you can sell the hametz to a goy.
Okay,
and I wanted to understand
I have to go.
I think that should be the
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just, could everybody whoever else is on, go onto the camera for 1 second. The Parrot, Shmuel Pfeffer, Isaac, one more second so I can get, and then whoever else is going, then I'll stay on another minute to answer your questions. Anybody else coming on? Okay. Okay, Rabbi Lebovic, thank you very, very much.
You're very welcome.
And, if we need a follow-up, we'll do a follow-up. To answer those who came from South Africa, you came late, maybe we'll do our regular Wednesday class. Show I never see. Maybe we'll, on our Wednesday class this week, we'll dedicate it for all the questions on Pesach, okay?
Okay.
Take care,
All right,
everybody.
thank you, Rabbi Lebovic.
Thank you.
Everybody have a
Thank you.
Chag Kosher V'Sameach, and this week was still regular learning. Make sure you come on time. Also.
Okay, thanks, Papa.